So a few hours ago, OpenAI announced ChatGPT Agents, which combines deep research and operator to expand the tools available for accomplishing different tasks. Last week, we saw Grok Heavy launch a practical multi-agent architecture where several instances can collaborate and then vote on what's the next answer. We saw some amazing growth in some of the tests. And to me, this marks a shift to a coordinated agent strategy that can tackle longer and messier workflows using agents. So here to discuss is Ado Kukic. He's the director of technical marketing at Stigg.io, and he also led the developer relations at Sourcegraph, launching an AI coding agent called Cody. Plus, he's the founder of Videotap, an AI tool for DevRel and marketing teams to repurpose their video content. I know I need some of that. So, and you could repurpose them into blog posts, newsletters, and social media clips. So, how are you doing, Ado? And let me make sure that you're on screen now. How's it going over there?
Good, good. How are you, Ray?
Good to see you. It's been a while since I saw you. I was joking before the show that your picture on LinkedIn probably needs to be a little bit updated because you look like you're 15. But hey, I look younger in my picture too, so you know how it is.
Hey,
So
in the age of AI, things move
I,
very, very
yeah,
quickly.
maybe
I'm
the
at
next, yeah, then we could just sort of tell AI like, hey, age up our photos, and that'll be good enough. Maybe that's what I'll do next time. So, did you get a chance to watch like some of the stuff going on with ChatGPT or any of the Grok announcements or anything like that? I just wanted to get your feeling how what you felt and what you thought.
Yeah, definitely. I tuned into the OpenAI agents announcement today, the live stream, and really, really exciting times. I think OpenAI is attacking this from, they had Operator for a while, and I had a chance to play with it. Um, but one of the things I noticed is like Operator tends to be locked a lot, and I'm hopeful that with their agents rollout that they've worked with more of these like e-commerce websites, more of the the Amazons of the world, the sites that you'd want to get work done on, and actually like integrated and working with the OpenAI agents and not getting blocked. But very, very exciting launch for them, and can't wait to play with it myself. They said they're rolling it out today. I haven't gotten access, but as soon as I do, I will kind of maybe post a few tweets about it.
Super. Yeah, I know I'm gonna be trying to do a video if I get a hold of it anytime today. Usually they have this weird sort of release structure where they sort of randomly release it to people. Like you don't know what time within the next 24 hours, but I think they did mention that everybody should have it by the end of the day. So I'm pretty
Mhm.
hopeful. And yeah, I was pretty impressed, a little bit disappointed. Like I was really hyping up GPT-5. So one thing that was kind of interesting is that they actually benchmark this particular model as its own thing, or maybe just a model with the agent sort of mode on, and it seems to have done pretty well. I would say not quite maybe as well as Grok, but in the humanities last exam, I think he got like a 47% score, where Grok may have gotten like 50, but that was with all the agents. So I think that was pretty interesting. So what do you think all these like agents unlock for developers that something like a single model chat couldn't do before, even with something like reasoning?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a long time, I've started building apps with LLMs back when, even before reasoning models, back in like the GPT 3.5 days, where you try to give it as much context as you could in the prompt and hope that, it was enough information where the LLM could decipher what you're trying to accomplish and give you a high quality response all in one turn. And that was very, very difficult times, of course, because it was challenging to figure out, what the right amount of context is. What do I give it? If you give it too much, then a lot of the context gets discarded. If you give it too little, then you don't get as high quality of an answer. You get stuff that was hallucinated. So with reasoning models, it was like, okay, we're going to let the LLM kind of figure out a little bit more about what context it needs and try to like have it understand, like, do I have enough context for this, or do I need to ask a follow-up? Do I need to kind of think about the problem a little bit. And I think agents just kind of unlock that next level of understanding, next level of context gathering capabilities, where instead of, I don't know if you've, I mean, I'm sure we've all done this when working with LLMs, putting in at the top of the prompt, like, hey, you are an expert programmer or you're
Yeah,
an expert,
for
blah, blah,
sure.
blah. I feel like with agents, we don't have to do that as much because now the agents can figure out, hey, I am tasked with doing XYZ. I'm tasked with this. And so that's what Grok has me excited about, like with the multi-agent approach
Mm.
of having, different agents tasked with different, different opinions, different thought points, and them all working together to figure out how to best solve your, solve your prompt.
So we saw like maybe just base models, regular models, and then we got omni models that have the ability to see other types of content. We got reasoning, and that leveled things up. And then we got tools, right? That was maybe like the next level. And now agents. And then I think that, as a bonus with maybe the ChatGPT input, now we got these agents that are actually a set of browsers, like a terminal, the
Mhm.
ability, and now we even have the ability to connect externally. So some of the things that they were showing was that you can actually ask it to control or launch maybe something like PowerPoint and actually do a reasonable presentation. Because I don't know if you've tried to do a presentation with ChatGPT, it's so bad. It
Yep.
makes it like the ugliest presentation you ever saw. I mean, you could do a couple of clicks and make it look nice, but I'm like, holy cow, that's really bad. ChatGPT, where if you use a tool like Gamma.ai, I think, or Gamma.app, I think it is,
Uh-huh.
I don't know what they do to make really great presentations. What do you think that sort of ability to sort of implement this agent patterns and applications does for some of the tools? I know you've implemented things in things like Cody or Videotap. You've done some of this work before. So what else do we get?
Yeah, I mean, I think more that like fine-tune optimization, right? That like just better, higher quality of outputs
Mhm,
um, for the tasks at hand. And I think, one of the issues that we've had with using agents for a long time is, just using reasoning models, just using like agents with tools, is just that inability to really fully truly trust it.
mhm,
And I was reading a Hacker News thread just before this on the OpenAI agents kind of launch and kind of people's experiences. And one commenter said that one of their example videos was like, hey, I'm trying to create this Excel document to kind of work through all of this data. This would normally take me 8 9 hours. Now I can just drop it into OpenAI agents, go walk my dog and come back, and it gets me 90% of the way there, and now I just have to like tidy it up. But I think the big issue that I'm hoping agents solve is that inability right now. Like if you ask an agent to do something and it generates a whole report for you, you're still tasked as the human to like validate that. And if it's creating a report and like you can eyeball it and see, oh, here's a small tweak that I need to make, and it's like, and then it's correct, it's great. But I feel like we now, people that are using a ton of agents are going to be stuck in kind of validating the agent output. And I'm hoping that with like the multi-agent models, they can kind of talk to each other a little bit better. And, hopefully at the end of the day, kind of fact check each other
mhm.
to get you to that 90 95% accuracy and hopefully even higher. When we started Videotap, our whole goal was, we will get you 80% of the way there with LLMs, with with our technology, and you'll still have to spend about 10 20% of the way there to just fine tune it and make sure it's great for you. um, and we're getting there, we're getting closer every day by fine tuning it more and more, rolling out more agentic capabilities. Like at the very beginning with Videotap, our approach was stuff everything into a single prompt, because somebody would send us an hour long podcast or a webinar, and they'd be like, I want the blog post, I want the email newsletter, I want 10 social media posts. And at the beginning we were like, well, if we make 10 separate calls, then the amount of context, the amount of tokens that's going to take and like reuse every single time is going to
Mhm.
be very cost prohibitive for us to like be able to offer this service and still make money on it. So we're like, well, let's just have the LLM do everything in one go. and validating that output. Sometimes it would do great, other times it would do bad. So, once we got tool use and once we got structured JSON outputs, and now with the agentic capabilities and prompt caching and things like that, we were able to do, you know, we were able to reuse tokens. We were able to like break up the transcript in a much better way, and ultimately give you a much higher quality blog post, video, social media clip, whatever you need.
So one of the things that I noticed that I thought was a little bit maybe hidden was that they actually are giving you access to a text-based browser. The AI tools have always been really impressive at, let me see if I can find text here. Yeah, it's actually, it lets you do a text-based browser for simpler reasoning-based queries, which is sort of cool because one of the advantages of these Omni models was that they can understand visual input. So far, we haven't seen a lot of tools that allow you to use sort of video as input, which I think is coming pretty soon. One of the things that I kind of expected to see in this release was, being able, like, if you use Copilot, which is a related tool to ChatGPT, they
Mhm.
actually have a mode that lets you turn on and share your screen with the AI, and it can suggest things. You can do that in the Google developer tool as well. I've always thought that these tools will actually do so much better once they're able to see something. Like I know whenever I run something like Cursor,
Uh-huh.
or Visual Studio Code, or any kind of agentic like development tool, it's really hard when I want to describe something that's visually wrong. So you end up doing screenshots. It'd be great if they could just interpret like the live code. So I thought that this text-based browser approach was actually pretty neat, because I know that I'm always surprised because I'm always either saving a page as HTML
Uh-huh.
or opening up like the developer tools and showing it like a screenshot of like, here's the CSS, here's the inspector and the CSS, and I want you to look at this and tell me where it's wrong. I think that visual thing is going to really enhance things. But even, I mean, with access to a browser, then and a connector that connects you to something like GitHub, it can just have a lot better context to, I think, take care of things that potentially they couldn't do before. So, what about this concept of parallel agents that we are seeing in Grok? They basically critique each other's work. Never seen that
Uh-huh.
before. And do you think that that's just something that Elon was trying to do to just beat all of the tests, or do you think we're going to see something like that also?
In my honest opinion, I would say it probably helps to get a higher quality, response on a test or in like a very, very, yeah, like benchmark driven environment where it's like what the output should be. So,
Mhm,
with multiple agents, they can kind of talk to each other, critique each other, but they kind of know what the end goal is. I feel like for more general purpose tasks, I don't know if like the multi-agent like critiquing each other is going to be the like a common use case in the future, but I
mhm.
could see it being used more and more on like very, very niche tasks to like validate agent capabilities and validate test cases. I don't personally think that it's going to be like the norm of like a swarm of agents just kind of arguing with each other to give you
Yeah,
the ultimate
it
output.
did feel like a little bit like, you're just trying to get the best score possible. So that's what
Uh,
was interesting about seeing ChatGPT perform so well with agent mode turned on without needing to run like four multiple agents at the same time, to just even get close to that score. So that was interesting. But whenever I saw that they had actually beaten the what they call the vending bench test of real world sort of simulation of running a vending machine, and like, I want to run a vending machine with Grok. I feel like it needs like $5,000. Like, I don't know how long this is, but that's pretty awesome. And look at all the other models. I know that other tools have a hard time with things that are more realistic. So
mhm,
that was a little bit encouraging. I've been using Grok quite a bit. I feel like whenever you need super real time information, like you want
mhm,
to ask it something about what happened in the last hour, especially for when I'm writing articles. Let's say I was doing the research this morning for ChatGPT 5. I don't want things that were like a day old. I want things that were like last hour. And so it seems to do a little bit better just because obviously it has those inputs. but I felt like you maybe that it was a little bit of a way to, I'm not going to say cheat the tests, but juice the results maybe.
I could see
But
that.
yeah, but it impressed me with the vending bench. I was like, oh, maybe there's something to it. And running it by itself, I think it's a pretty good model. So what about when you're running and doing some of these things? What about reliability challenges that you ran into when you're implementing just regular models in some of your tools? Was the biggest problem something like latency, some conflicting outcomes? I know, like reliability of the results, observability. What was the biggest sort of challenge when you're
I would
implementing some of these tools?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think a lot of it boils down to observability, and I would say to like an even, higher view vibes. I feel like, and what I mean by that is, one day you're using Claude Code, for example, to, write a new application, and it's going so swimmingly well. You're like, oh my God, this is the best tool ever. Like, I'm going to be out of a job tomorrow. Uh, and then the next
I
day,
know that feeling.
just the next day, you're like trying to get it to do just continue building that application or just fix the tiniest bug, and it's like, oh, I'm going to go delete all these files that are not relevant at all, and you're like, nothing changed. Like, I'm using the same
I
model
know.
at the
I
same
know.
time at the same capability, and it's like, why am I getting these different answers? And a lot of times it's like, is it me? Like, am I prompting it wrong? Have I gotten lazy, and am I just like assuming the model's going to do stuff for me? Or is it really like the degradation of the model? Like, are they having issues where they're kind of like scaling it down, using a quantized version just to like, deal with the scale and their capabilities there? So I think much of the like latency for the most part, like all models I've seen, they don't all have perfect perfect uptime. For Videotap, we use both Claude directly, and then we use a ton of the OpenAI models. We're also hosting them ourselves on AWS and on Azure with Claude and OpenAI. And
Mhm.
reliability there is mostly okay, but I would say like observability, being able to really understand why sending a this prompt today works really great, but the same or similar prompt the next day, sending a totally completely different answer. And you feel as a developer, as like a maintainer of the tool, you feel a little bit helpless, and it's like, I don't feel like I did anything wrong, but I'm not getting the output that I expect.
Mm.
So you just spend a ton of time like, do I need to change the prompt around? Do I need to do X, Y, Z? And I feel like so much of it is based on vibes and feels as opposed to like real empirical data.
But see, like, I feel like then maybe a multi-agent system where you're saying, okay, go do this thing 5 times, and then kind of argue amongst yourself, and then come up with like vote on who did the best job or something. Like that
Uh-huh.
might actually be helpful. I mean, once like costs come down, obviously, like I think picking the right models, some models do better than others. Claude's like everybody loves it for development. And I love Claude Code. It's a really great programmer. And one of the things that it does at the very beginning, which I really loved immediately, was that assessment that it does of your project. And
Uh-huh.
it gives you like this really good set of like a system prompts before it does anything else. And I think that's kind of revolutionary because that really does help in repeatability. But honestly, sometimes like I feel like the models are confidently wrong, which is the worst you can get.
Uh-huh.
I used to call ChatGPT Chad GPT whenever it behaved like this. Like you ask it a question and you know it's wrong and you're telling it it's wrong, but it's confident. No, it's
Yep.
really confident that it's doing it right. And I'm like, listen, sometimes he's got to like reboot them or something, like try again. So maybe there is something to like, what if you had like 4 independent things kind of running, and then they were able to catch like the one sort of odd case, that solves the problem. So let's talk a little bit about this company Stigg that you joined recently. So I've never seen anything like it. So maybe you can introduce it. It treats pricing to me seem to me like a service, and basically pricing is code. So can you explain a little bit about it and tell me what you're doing there?
Yeah, definitely. So I joined Stig about a month and a half ago at the very beginning of June, and what really attracted me to Stig was solving a real painful problem that many SaaS companies that that we at Videotap have faced ourselves in trying to solve and build and maintain. But essentially, what Stigg does is provides a monetization operating system, a set of APIs and SDKs that are built to give your product and engineering teams full control over their pricing, their packaging, their entitlement management. So instead of you kind of like hard coding your entitlement logic of if person A signs up for plan A, they should get access to these features. But then what if they update mid-cycle? What if they change? And especially, one of the big use cases we're seeing is so many companies are starting to add AI capabilities into their applications, starting to add usage-based pricing, and maintaining all of that infrastructure on your own is, easy, much more difficult, much easier said than done. So Stig is kind of well positioned there to help you implement any sort of pricing plan, entitlement management into your ecosystem, and then allowing your your go-to-market teams, your product teams to iterate and change on pricing without having to go and change all of the code in your application.
That's interesting because I hadn't thought of the fact that nowadays, if you want to build like an app with AI, you're going to run into a problem where, you got to really manage your costs based on the usage. And it's not a problem that, we necessarily have had before. You kind of knew sort of what your costs were going to be. So that's actually pretty smart. So if I know you also have this Videotap application that you built, I know it's still active. So is there anything you would do different? I think you mentioned actually a couple of things earlier, but is it if fundamentally you had an opportunity to change the infrastructure with all these new tools that you have, what would you do and what would you maybe hand off to agents?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we are actually in the process of rewriting the entire platform to be agent first. We initially launched Videotap back in 2023 with GPT 3.5 as the main model, as like the model of choice. That's all we had access to, and then we got access to like Claude 2.0 shortly thereafter, and we were kind of comparing the two. But those early days, like I said, it was very much stuff as much context you can in the prompt and get as high quality of a blog post, newsletter, social media clip as possible. And that worked for a while, but as more and more customers came on board, they wanted longer blog posts. They wanted blog posts that were, in their brand voice. They wanted all of these additional features. So
Hmm.
our, one prompt to rule them all approach definitely was not scalable. And
Hmm.
we actually, over the last 6 months, we had kind of taken a break on Videotap. It was on autopilot. We had tons of customers
Hmm.
using it and generating content and being generally happy. But life gets in the way. My co-founders, we all have full-time jobs. We're all managing, multiple things, families, life. But thanks once Claude 4.0 came out, we said, hey, could we like rebuild this? All of these features that we've had in our backlog, all of these agentic, like let's add more agentic capabilities from the get-go and like rewrite it. And we said, could we have Claude do it for us? So, Chris and I, my
Hmm.
co-founder, we sat down and co-worked one day out of a coffee shop, and we're like, all right, let's just ask Claude Code to rewrite our entire janky infrastructure. And over the course of a week, we are actually getting very, very close to Videotap 3.0. That's fully agentic, that's using all the latest models, and
Wow.
that's going to use some of the, like at the moment, the video capabilities are primarily based off of the transcript. So, you upload a video to us, we'll go to assembly, get a high quality transcript, use that transcript to generate all the other content. But like you said, now with like, multi-input support, and we're using Gemini to like really analyze each frame in the video to see, like, for a social media clip, instead of just giving you like the interesting part of the video, could we give you a split screen video of who's talking, what's being shared on the screen? Could we extract the video, like the code snippets if you're doing a coding tutorial, capture higher quality screenshots for the blog post, and just automate all of that? And this is where agents unlock all of those capabilities for us, where instead of like just doing one prompt to do everything for you, we're going to split it up into, the screenshot agent and the, social media agent and the
Mhm.
video clipping agent. So it's been really, really exciting. We're about 2 to 3 weeks from kind of relaunching and you know kind of doing a bigger push on Videotap, but agentic capabilities and Claude Code as our main programmer has been quite an experience.
Yeah, and I mean, the world needs somebody to do this right, or to just make it easy to do, because I know that, after I get done with the show, I spend so much time just clipping out decent content. And I could, everybody that is in video, I think, could use something that could make good quality content like easier to repurpose. So I can't wait to see the new changes. And I'm definitely going to give this thing a shot, because I do a lot, I do a lot of this work, and internally we even do a lot of it as well, at LinkedIn. So super exciting. So one thing that I don't know if you've seen a lot of these sort of tools that will help you, not just Claude Code, but one of the ones that I really like is this Codex. I don't know if you've seen it, but
Mhm.
GitHub also has something like this. And what I really loved about this tool is that it has this sort of, you connect it to your repo, and it will
Uh-huh.
go through and kind of look for things. And I've been always really amazed when I pointed at something that I thought was fine, and it finds like, a lot of spelling mistakes that I didn't even know were there. But then it finds
Uh-huh.
like all these other things, and I'm like, wow. And it's a really good kind of infrastructure to sort of solve problems. I really like the way Codex is doing it better than other tools. I know that, I've worked with Claude Code, but I like the approach of, sort of an independent kind of separate agent that can take a look and check my work. I know, GitHub has something like that. So
Uh-huh.
it's something that I really enjoy. So definitely maybe give it a shot if,
Yeah.
you're watching, like if you want to see something that will go find a project, and I think you'll be pretty amazed at what it will find. Because again, I fed it stuff that I thought was perfect, and I was like, what? 20 suggestions. And then just the whole workflow of like, it tries to solve the problem, and it creates a pull request, and then you can review the pull request. It's really cool. So I don't know. It's a really good product that I
Definitely.
love. So
Yeah,
definitely maybe check it out.
Codex is really good. The one that I've been using that's very, very similar is from Google. It's called Jules,
Oh yeah, I've heard
JU.
about that. Yeah, I have
And
access to that,
very,
but I haven't played with it. Right?
very, very similar. You connect your GitHub repo to it, and you just spin up independent agents. Give it prompts, and I've been using it primarily for code review on a couple of other kind of side projects and hobby projects. Just kick off a couple of different questions, let it do its thing. Come back after lunch, review the code, and be like, okay, yeah, this was definitely wrong, or this could be improved. So I
Mhm.
do love that workflow as kind of an asynchronous, like if I'm on the go and I'm just thinking of, oh, hey, how could we like improve this feature, or am I thinking about this the right way? Just kind of asking questions and being able to come back, sit at my computer, and open up those responses. And a lot of the times it actually goes and implements the code for you, creates a PR, so you can be like, oh, okay, so this will work and it's working. So let's merge it into
And I feel
the
guilty
main
like
branch.
approving those PRs. And then you read the code, and it's like, wow, that's actually good code. It actually wrote, really decent code. And that's really, again, what I like about Anthropic is, when as I've been working on projects with all the tools, because that's my job to like check everything out. I really love the way that it responds. Something that is it's more than the model, it's the way that it thinks about the responses. So I've been really enjoying that as well. Big fan of Cloud Code. So what about this sort of I don't know, event that's happening now, where people are saying that we're gonna lose all the developers in the world, and at the same time, Zuckerberg's walking around with like a bag loads of cash, which is really weird, because we have everybody saying that developers are going to go away, but all of a sudden we hear like $100 million bonuses, and he's out poaching anybody he can get, doing a fantastic job at it. So, what's your take on this sort of, I don't know, thought that developers are going away unless you work in AI? Like, what do you think about this?
I think like I don't believe developer jobs are going away anytime soon, if ever.
Mhm.
I think the scope of what a developer does is definitely going to change, and I feel like a couple years from now, we're not going to be hiring necessarily a React front end engineer or a Golang, backend engineer or a database engineer. I feel like we're going to be hiring software developers that understand how to use AI, how to read code, how to understand kind of the core concepts of the technologies that they're working with, rather than really understanding the nitty gritty of the syntax, of the conventions. Because I feel like those AI does such a great job at explaining that, if I am, I've programmed in many different languages. But one language that I've never really focused on too much is PHP, right? Like when I first got started, like I did a little bit of WordPress development, learned a little bit of PHP, and then was like, on the hype train of like, oh, PHP sucks, use a real programming language. So I've never gone back to PHP, but now Videotap is built entirely on Laravel, which is all like
Oh, wow.
PHP under the hood. So at the beginning, I brushed up a little bit on it just to be able to make some changes here and there. I mainly worked on the front end capabilities and like building the APIs and building the kind of AI integrations, which didn't require a whole ton of understanding under the hood of PHP. But
Mhm,
now with Claude Code, I can contribute meaningfully to the repository. I can add pages, I can add features, I can debug, because I, inherently understand the programming concepts. I understand like what it's trying to do, and even if I
mhm.
can't understand it fully, I can very quickly ask, Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, like, hey, can you please explain this to me and explain it to me in in Go terms, or explain it in uh, Rust terms that I can understand really well. And then it's like, okay, so that's what it's trying to do, or oh, this should be a singleton, or
Yeah,
whatever the
I think
case
that
may be.
the languages are actually like for a developer, when you see another language, you kind of know what's going on. Like it makes kind of sense. It's just the syntax is not what you're used to. So it actually, as long as you understand the concepts, I think you're good with doing some of these things. Like I know recently I decided that I would try vibe coding a WordPress plugin that I wanted like for this. Actually, it is exactly this WordPress plugin. I was looking for
Uh-huh.
something that just showed me my latest like videos that I just uploaded to the platform, and I was able to do it. And I wrote an article about it. I really ended up because I'm always trying out things. I ended up using just a lot of different things, and I tried a lot of different models. I did end up landing at at Claude at the end. Like I started, I think between like ChatGPT 4.1, and I tried Gemini Pro, and they were both okay. But this is where I'm telling you, when I landed on Claude Code,
Uh-huh.
Opus, it was actually I really enjoyed it more. Does that make sense? And like I don't know, I can't even tell you why. It was just like friendly, and it made really good suggestions, and that was pretty surprising. So I ended up just doing the whole thing. I think if I were to do it again, I would have planned a little more because I totally vibe coded it. It's like I need this thing, let's go. And it did a lot of things, but one of the problems was that it was doing things for like an earlier version of the code. And so
Uh-huh.
when you kind of incorporate it into your platform, it then gives you the ability to do a bunch of tests. And then it was telling me, oh yeah, it looks like you're using like WordPress 6.8 or something, and the latest version is like 8 point something. So that's one thing that happens that you have to watch out, because some of the tools like inherently know like an earlier version of the language or an earlier version of the platform. So that could be a problem. But I think that today, if I would have started like say on Cloud Code and told it what I wanted to do, and knowing having done this first one, I could point it to this one and say, hey, make sure that we're working with this version, and it would be a much easier restart. So at some point I might do like another version of this just to see how it works. But I think you're right. I don't think developers are going away anytime soon. And I think I mentioned this to you before, that what we might see is just sort of a new class of people that just understand the agents and the connector parts,
Mhm.
that can do that part of it without necessarily getting into the code, but still understand like how to connect to MCP servers, how to do A2A, like less typing, more conceptual connecting things together.
Oh,
Well,
definitely.
yeah.
And I would still say for people interested in getting into the tech industry, into wanting to become software engineers or developers, I would definitely say, there is still plenty of room. Come on in. There's so many learning resources, and I feel like using tools like Claude or ChatGPT to kickstart your journey would be really really good. And start small. Like the best way to learn is to build it yourself.
Mhm,
Try things and the LLMs. Like one thing I wish I had when I was first learning to program is an LLM like Claude, where I could look at a piece of code and be like, "Hey, can you explain this to me line by line, like I'm 5 years old?"
mhm, mhm,
So that, and I feel like, I still use that to this day. Like, "Hey, I'm looking at this library, like, why is it implemented this way?" And in so many, like 95% plus cases, it will give me a really, really high quality answer that is correct, that is like, or at least will point me in the right direction of really understanding this concept.
mhm.
So I feel like there is no excuse not to jump in right now.
Yeah, and that leads me to the last question. So, what's your take on something like vibe coding and AI assistant coding? I know there's a lot of developers that are potentially against it. There was a recent study that talked about how they did a qualitative study, which is only like 16 people of developers, and it actually slowed them down. And I think it was because they were so proficient that like the
Mhm.
learning curve was really actually slowing them down. I feel like if you check with these people like 2 months from now, they would have been much faster. But what's your take on something like vibe coding and something to help people maybe get into programming?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, if you were to ask me this question 3 months ago, I would say like vibe coding is a joke, and you're not a real developer if you have the LLM write everything for you. But
You've seen the light.
I have definitely seen the light, and
Yeah.
I still feel that, to be really effective and to like put out high quality applications, whether you're building something, for personal use or you're trying to build a SaaS app for others to use, I still feel like you need that fundamental understanding of the technologies you're working with. And why should I use Redis for cache, and why should I use Postgres over MongoDB, and like being able to understand those like architectural questions and being able to understand like what you're building and why it's coming out the way that it is, even if all the code is LLM generated. I still feel having that core understanding is important. I think we've all seen the tweets of like, there was a guy that like
Oh, yeah, like
built
those
in
game
vibe
tester?
coded an app, and
Yeah.
his keys were exposed everywhere, and he's like, "I'm getting charged
Right.
$4,500 a day, like, what do I do?" So it's
Right.
like you still need a little bit of, kind of conventional, tech knowledge to be successful, but I feel like with vibe coding, with, delegating more and more of the actual writing of the syntax of the code to an LLM, to an agent, whether it's Claude Code or AMP by Sourcegraph, the new tool that they're working on, or any of the like Jules or Codex. Like, I think these tools are going to make programmers more efficient and better, and allow them to improve their code. And because I've looked at my older applications that I've hand coded, that I thought were so beautifully, masterfully done, and I was like, there's no way this could be better. And I point cloud code at it, and it's like, dude, who wrote this?
I thought
So
you said explain it to me like a 5-year-old, not that a 5-year-old coded this, right? So
pretty much.
I think I hear that all the time, like professional developers that kind of, sort of get that switch turned on that says, yeah, this is actually really helpful. And
Mhm,
that's fantastic to see. And I think that you're going to see that more and more, especially as the tools get better. But I
mhm.
remember why, I don't know if you can maybe relate to this. If you remember why you got into coding, like for me, it was I moved to a different country and I ended up being in this program where because it was the time shifts in different countries, and I ended up coming in like almost at the end of the semester. So the programming teacher that I for the class that I joined said, I can't like teach the class from the beginning, so I'm going to just give you a bunch of problems to solve and you figure it out. Here's the book, let me know if you have any questions. And that was like the best class I ever took. It's really what got me into programming, the fact that I could solve problems and I could sort of see how the machine can help you accomplish things. Like that's really what made me fall in love with programming. I don't know when you learn programming, if you ran into something like that, but I feel like vibe coding kind of makes that a lot more easier and fun for people.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my journey was very similar. Like I started programming when I was 9 years old,
Mm.
I've been hooked on it ever since. Just the problem solving, the ability to create something out of nothing, and like once you see it run and compile, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I made this.
Mhm.
Um, that's been a driving force, and just being able to automate things in my life, make it more efficient, have all been, really, really drivers for me to continuously learn different languages, different frameworks, different technologies, and I love it. And I feel like I don't feel that AI and LLMs are taking that away from me. I feel like they're augmenting it in such a powerful way that I can now do 10x or 100x of what I was able to do in the past. And there was this tweet that I saw. It was by Kent Beck. He posted it a couple days ago, saying that the value of his programming skills. Or of most of his skills went down 90%, but the value of the other 10% is worth 1,000x. And I definitely feel that way, where it's like my knowledge of Node.js, for example, right now might not be as valuable as it might have been a couple years ago, or Go, or MongoDB. But I feel like understanding how these technologies play together, how to quickly be able to iterate and understand like what I'm building and build it better for, whether I'm contracting, working at an employer, working on with a customer to implement, change their monetization stack to Stigg. I feel like it's making me so much more efficient that I definitely resonate with this tweet. And I
Mm.
think he calls out that he's not sure what 90% has gone to zero and what 10% has gone 1,000x, but he'll figure it out.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, this is a really good article, so I'll definitely put it in the show notes and stuff. Yeah, is there anything else that you're working on that you want to sort of talk about? I know you did a course for us at LinkedIn, and I hope you do another one soon. Anything else you want to sort of talk about?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I would love to do another LinkedIn course. Right now, I am pretty busy with onboarding at Stigg, and kind of helping companies
Mhm.
migrate to our monetization OS. We're relaunching Videotap in a couple of weeks, and I have a whole list of kind of quick projects that I started with Cloud Code, because it's so easy right now. Like any idea I have, I'm like, oh, so, well, let's just throw Cloud Code at it and come back a couple hours later and see, I have a working prototype. So one thing I've been working on just for fun, and just to learn more about kind of WebSockets, is so I don't know if you've ever played that like Jackbox party game, where it's like, on the TV, there's a bunch of different multiplayer games, and everybody like connects on their phone. So it's like a good game night,
Mhm.
interactive way. So I'm like, I wonder if I could rebuild that for game night when we have a couple friends over, and just like, let's make our own games and be able to all play together. So I've been hacking on that in my free time with Cloud Code, and I actually have most of it working and running. So gonna release the code for that, let people play with it, and
Super.
hopefully they'll integrate it into their game nights.
That's like the other thing that I think once you start playing with these tools, you do get to find out that they do like 10x to 100x. I know it sounds like it shouldn't work, but I would have never built. There's so many pieces to building like a WordPress plugin that
Mhm,
if I just wanted it for myself, I could have done it. I could have done a plugin for myself. But if you want to like submit it into the store and get all the sort of infrastructure around that, I would have never done it because I just don't have time for that. But like with Cloud Code and other tools like that, I can do it. I feel like I know what I want, and it can help me build the infrastructure, things like documentation, things
mhm,
like release notes, you know, all that stuff is just all taken care of, and that's what I love. So thank you
yeah,
so much, Ado, for coming, and I know I'm gonna see you again soon. Good luck with all your apps, and thank you so much for being here.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me, and yeah, it was great chatting, and the future is very, very exciting.
Super.